My name is Devon Henderson. I'm with the Huntington City-Township Public Library. I have been doing WordPress for 10 years now at this point, and today we are going to walk through building a very simple WordPress website for your library. There are a couple things we're going to address. The first is just in general using WordPress, how to set things up on a basic level. You can get a WordPress website for free through the state library through their Connect In program. We are going to kind of use a demo version of what you would get if you sign up through Connect In with today's webinar, so that if you sign up for that program, this is a step-by-step process you can follow to get your library website going. But even if you don't use Connect In, you can use this to just build yourself your very first WordPress website for your library. But we are also going to make sure that we meet the Indiana State Library guidelines so that you know your website meets everything it needs to meet to be a library website in the state of Indiana. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually look at those standards. So you can find them here on in.gov/library/standards. The portion that we need to pay attention to is here, and it says the library's website must be discoverable and include the following for each fixed location: hours of operation, physical address or addresses, a map for each fixed location, phone number, email address or other means of electronic contact, a link to inspire.in.gov, public service policies adopted by the library board to include but not be limited to the following: circulation policies, fees, internet use, access to the library's online public access catalog, and a calendar or schedule of events and programs, which shall be updated at least monthly, including the dates for the library board meetings. So we're going to use this as kind of the guideline to make sure that we have the basics that we need on our website. You can always absolutely add more. Many library websites will have a lot more content, but this is, just a strong, solid baseline so that you know that if you've addressed all of these points, you have enough out there for your patrons to access for you on the web. So we're going to go ahead and get into WordPress. So when you sign up for Connect In, your site is going to look something like this. They have a default theme installed for you. It's got some pages and different things set up so that you have something to work from. The site we are going to work from is one that I have set up to kind of mimic this. This is just a basic WordPress install. So if you're installing WordPress yourself, or there are different hosting companies, you can get free hosting by being a public library. It'll look more like this. So the only difference is that the default post you start with is a little bit different. And then when you get into the back end, what you're going to want to do to sign in is, no matter how you set up your WordPress site on the Connect In site, you can go here and you can hit login. Same with a regular WordPress site. You're going to want to go under Meta Login. And what it's going to do is take you to a login page, and you're going to have to type in, if you do it through Connect In, you will get your login through the state library. But if you're building it yourself, if you set it up through your own hosting, you'll have access to that from your IT person. And once you're signed in, it's going to look like this. Every WordPress website, this is what the back end is going to look like at the start. So you're going to have a little welcome to WordPress at the top that gives you some quick links on how to set up some basic things, as well as site health status at a glance, just some basic information about your site. We are going to go ahead and just dismiss this because it's a little bit in the way, and that way we can kind of get used to what you're going to see when you manage your site going forward, which is something like this. And the most important bit here is the at a glance. It's going to tell you how many posts you have, comments, your page, and what theme you have installed. So when you sign up through Connect In, they default install the Zero Gravity theme. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to change that to one that supports WordPress's new editor, the block editor. So we get there through navigating through the sidebar. So the WordPress sidebar here has access to a whole bunch of different things. You have your home, your dashboard, which is this page. You can also have quick access to any updates you need to run, and it's going to give you a little number here if anything's outdated. You can get to your posts. Media is where you upload images, documents, files, anything that you're going to need to attach to your website, you can do through here. Pages is where you make pages for your website. Comments, which is not the most important, we're not going to cover that today, but if you get really active on using your blog portion of your site, you'll be using this more. Appearance, plugins, users, this is where you set up who can edit things on the back end. This is not just like your library patrons, but this is the users on the administrative side of your website. So right now you're probably just going to have one. You're going to have the administrative user that you are logged in with right now. Tools, which is just some basic stuff. We're not going to address that today because there's very specific use cases for this, but it's not everyday stuff. And then some just general settings. So in order to change the theme, we're going to go under Appearance, Themes. It's going to look like this. It's going to show you all the themes that you have installed, and it's going to tell you which one you have active. So I went ahead and I installed one called GeneratePress. This is a great free theme. This is actually the theme we use on our site here in Huntington that I manage. It's just a really solid, easy, and it's incredibly fast loading theme. Especially here in Huntington, we have a lot of residents who have what we call country internet, where their internet speeds are very slow or they're throttled. And so we wanted to make sure we had a theme that loaded very quickly. So in order to get that theme, you're going to want to do Add New up here. And it's going to give you a bunch of different options. So you can scroll through these. You can find if any of these call to you. You can use them. But since we're looking for a specific one, we're going to want to search for it. So we type in there, and it's going to show up here. You're going to have an install button. You'll want to click that. And then it's going to look like this, where it's going to give you the option to activate. And that's what we're going to go ahead and click. And what that does is make that the current theme on the website. So now if we go and we look at the website again, we refresh, it looks different. We are now using that theme as our base theme. So now that we've got that set up, we are going to install one plugin. And now the very first thing on that standards list here is that the library's website must be discoverable. So that's kind of an easy thing to look over, but what that really means is that people need to be able to find your website on the internet, which means search engines need to be able to see your website. So the one plugin where you're going to start with is called SEO Frameworks. And it is a very lightweight, very easy to use plugin that helps you have search engine optimization, which is SEO. So we're going to go under plugins and we're going to do add new. We're going to search for it. And here it is. Now this is the one we use in Huntington. It's really easy and lightweight. There are some other ones, like you might run across something called Yoast that is also a really great plugin, but I think that's more for people who are really familiar with WordPress. The SEO framework kind of gets the same work done for a lot less effort. It's very, very easy to use. So we went ahead and hit install. We're going to hit activate, because you can install plugins but not necessarily have them active, which is helpful if you only need things for certain parts of the year, or if you are running into issues with some plugins, you can deactivate them without having to completely uninstall and lose all your settings. But what it did was it took us to our plugins page, and it shows that this one, since it's blue, that means it's installed. We're not going to mess with any of the settings. The defaults that it come with work great. But what it's going to do is when we go to start editing pages, it's going to add a very small block on there below the block editor where we can put in some SEO information. And it's really pretty straightforward, which is really nice, and it's going to mean that on Google your website is going to show up much easier and much nicer. So for this basic web page, we are going to create 4 actual pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under Pages, and we're going to hit Add New. It's going to walk you through. It says, welcome to the block editor. This is relatively new to WordPress, so if you used WordPress a few years ago and haven't kind of touched it since, they now have a completely visual editor. It's drag and drop. It's really nice. You don't have to mess with code. You don't have to mess with any of that type of stuff. So it's just going to kind of walk you through how this whole thing works. We're just going to skip through that and we're going to hit get started. So this is the basic block editor. It's going to give you the option to put your title in and to start typing your page content. And you can see down here we have this block that is your page SEO settings. Really all we need to do do the bare bones for SEO is we're going to want to type stuff in to the meta title box and the meta description, and that's it. That's enough to get you discoverable on the internet. But we'll worry about that in a moment. For now, we're going to create a page. And the 4 pages that we're actually going to make, we're going to make a home page, we're going to make a calendar page, we're going to make a policies page, and we're going to make an about us page. So this is going to be the home page. And we're just going to title it welcome so that we don't have to worry about hiding the title later. This is a nice title to show up and doesn't just say homepage on your website. And what we're just going to do is we're going to hit publish. Yes, it's going to be a blank page for now, but that's okay. We're going to put content in that later. It's going to ask if we're ready. We're going to hit publish. Go back here, and now we can see that we have a welcome page here. We do also have some default pages that they start you out with, just so you can kind of see what they're going to look like. What we're going to go ahead and do is just delete them to get them out of the way. So we're going to check the little box here next to each of those. And under bulk actions, we're going to move to trash and hit apply. So now we just have the one page we've made so far. Now over here, it's going to give you a bit of information. For example, the author, and then some basic SEO stuff. I wouldn't even bother worrying about too much of this. You just want more green than any other color. Green means that that setting is good. It's going to tell you if your title is good, if your description is good, and various other information. These are the 2 we're really worried about. You just want them to be green, and we're going to make sure that they're all green. So we have a welcome page. We're going to add a calendar page. We're going to do the same thing where we just hit publish. We're going to go back and view our pages. We're going to add another. Policies. Publish. And about. All right, so we've got 4 pages now, and they're blank. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to start wanting to add content. So we're going to go back to our welcome page. Now for the purpose of this demo, we're only going to put some very, very basic stuff in. You will want to put some significant thought into what you want especially your home page, what you want on there. You might decide that you just want to have one page and you want to put all of your links that you need, you want to put your policies, all of that onto one page. That is perfectly fine. It is all about the size of your library and what's best for your patrons. So you don't have to follow this exactly. But for the purpose of this demo, we're just going to do something really, really basic. And we're just going to type in a basic, welcome to our library, website. You need here. Now we're going to do is we're going to scroll down. So for the title, we're just going to put welcome to the Demo Public Library. Now this one's gone over a little bit, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be exact. And then down here, we're going to put the Demo Public Library. Serves the city of Demo in Indiana. So this description's a little long, so you might want to adjust it a bit, but it's close enough for the purpose of this demo. But something like this, where it just says, where the library is, as well as a basic description over your services is a great thing to include. It doesn't have to be anything super extravagant. We're going to go ahead and hit update. Now what we can do is we can go and actually, if we look at our website and we hit refresh, so you're going to see that we now have some pages showing up in our menu. We can hit welcome, and you can see that the title is there, as well as the brief little description we put there. So something else we're going to stick on the home page, because it is a requirement for the standards, is we're going to put a link to Inspire. So Inspire is the virtual online library through the State Library of Indiana. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to include a link with a brief description. So we're going to go back to the page editor. And at the end of what we said before, we're going to hit enter so that it goes onto the new line. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to hit this little plus here, and it's going to tell us to add a block. And what we're going to do is we're going to click that, and we're going to choose heading. What this lets us do is put a header text here, which is going to be a bit bigger and bolder than the rest of the text on the page. These are a great way for you to divide up content on a page. So we're going to put Inspire Digital Library, and then we're going to hit enter. And what that did is made that you can see that the text looks a little bit different. It's not quite as big as the title, but it still stands out on its own. Now I have Inspire opened up on a tab. You can just go to inspire.in.gov. And I went to the About page because I think the description here for Inspire is great, and we're just going to take that and we're going to put that on our site. So we're going to take the first couple sentences here. We're going to copy that. We're going to go back to our site. We're going to paste it. We'll hit space. I'm going to grab a little bit more from there. So this kind of explains just the basics of what Inspire is, but down here explains why people might be interested in it. So we're going to grab a little bit of this. Go back to our page, paste that in as well. All right, so there's our description for it. So this is what's going to entice people to visiting Inspire. We're going to hit enter, and we're going to type visit Inspire. And then what we are going to do is make this a link. So we are going to select this text. And this little hover box up here, this tells us this is a paragraph block type. It tells us it's left aligned. We can make it bold, we can make it italic, or we can make it a link. So we're going to click that. I'm just going to type in. You can paste it if you're more comfortable that way. But I'm just going to type the link in here. We'll click it. So now it made it blue. That tells us it made it a link. We're going to hit update. So every time you make changes on your page, you can go ahead and hit update, and that will push it to live. So now if we go and we look at that page and we hit refresh, we now have that content we just added to the page, and we have the link here. All right, so that's all we're going to touch on for the home page for today. You can feel free to add anything else you think is important. For example, at our library, we put links to, especially in the middle of a pandemic, links to our digital content, such as Hoopla or Overdrive. You may want to put your calendar on your homepage. You have a lot of flexibility. It's all about what you like. But at least for the demo purposes, we're just going to leave it here. So we're going to head back, and we are going to go to our next page. So we're going to hit this WordPress logo again to go back to our pages. Now what I'm actually going to do is we're going to go to the calendar page. So you can either click the title or you can click edit, both take you to the same spot. And so depending on how many events you have, you either may want to just type them out as a list, or you may want to use a plugin. There are a lot of great plugins for calendars for WordPress, but for today's purposes, we're just going to type some example stuff out, just so you can kind of see what that's like. Especially during a pandemic, you may not have as many events going on, and you may just think that this is a lot easier. It is easier for patrons to read on mobile phones. One thing you're really going to want to keep in mind is how your website looks on phones. You're going to want to check it if you can. If you don't have a phone that you can test it on, you might want to resize your browser window by dragging or adjusting through here, just so that you can make sure that your stuff is legible, because a lot of people check library websites, especially if they're looking for your hours or looking for what's going on, they're checking it on their phone. So you really want to make sure that it loads correctly and is legible. And when it comes to events, some of the calendar plugins can get a bit funny. So if you don't have all that many, it might be best for you to just list them out, because that will always adapt really, really well to a mobile device. So that's just what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of set up some basic ones. We'll just say demo event, and then I'm going to hit enter, and we're just going to type in, a date. So we'll say August 28, 2020 at 5 p.m. And then we can put, this is a description for this event. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to format this, because if we go ahead and we hit update and we look at that page on our site, and we're going to have to choose calendar from the menu, it's there. It doesn't look the best, and if you start to have a whole bunch of events, like if we go back and say we select all of that, and then we paste it again and again, so like if you had 3 events and you hit update, it's not the easiest to tell them apart. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little bit of basic formatting, where I'm going to select the text of the title, and we are just going to make that bold. Select the text of the date. We're going to make that italic. And then we're going to just put an extra space underneath. It's not much, but this little bit of formatting is going to make this a lot easier for people to read. All right, so that loaded. So one thing you'll notice is that I put an extra space underneath, but that it didn't actually show that. That will sometimes happen with WordPress. You can't always predict how exactly the format is going to show up. So you can decide, if you like this and this is enough that, it's easy enough to tell where the different events start, you can leave it as is. Or you can go in and do something like, we add another block, there is a called, let's go ahead and hit browse all. There's lots of block options, so finding the exact one you're looking for can be a bit tricky. So we're actually, what we're going to do is we're just going to stick a couple hyphens in there, and that will achieve the same effect as putting a little bit of a line breaker in there. We're going to go ahead and hit update, and if we go and we look, so that went ahead and that separated those out really nicely. What's really nice about this is if you look at it on a mobile phone, it's going to be nice and easy to read. Text will flow if you have a nice, not short description. For example, if you have a speaker coming, and you might want to put a little bio, it's going to be a lot easier for them to read than if it's like a small calendar, event description. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. But for this demo purpose, we're just going to go ahead and have them as a list. So the next thing we're going to tackle is we're going to tackle the policies page, which is not the most exciting page, but it is a very important page, and you would be surprised at how many views policy pages get. at least in Huntington, we get quite a few views there. People are looking up circulation policies. They're looking up, we have a new library of things that has its own policy. So it is very important that you have this on here, and it is part of the standards. So we're going to go into the policies page. And so the easiest way you can probably handle this is if we set up policies as just a link to the PDF. So you want to make sure that you have all your policies as PDFs. And what we're going to go ahead and do is actually leave here really quickly, and we're going to go upload them. So here above pages is media. You're going to want to click add new. This is where you will upload any files that you need to put on your website. If you decide to put images, if you want to put pictures of your library or upload any pictures that way, you'll need to do it here. You also would upload any PDFs or any files you're just going to link to for your patrons. So what you can do is you can hit select files, or you can drag and drop, which is what we're going to do. So I have an example PDF here. This is actually the PDF of the library standards, but for demo purposes this will work well. And I'm just going to drag and drop it right into there. So it's telling us it's uploading. So what you're going to have to do in order to link to it is you're going to have to get that link of that file on your website. So we're going to hit edit over here. And it's going to give you a bit of a preview of your file. So you can double check and make sure that you plopped the right one in there. But over here it says file URL. And you're going to go ahead and click that link, copy URL, and it's going to put it on your clipboard. We're going to go back to the page we're editing. And you're going to want to start putting your policy links in here. So I'm not going to overly name them anything creative. But just so you can kind of see what it's going to be like. So then what we're going to do is we're going to do that same thing we did with the Inspire link, where we're going to select the text, we're going to click link, and since that URL is on your clipboard now, you can just hit paste, which is Control V, and then you can either press enter or you can click that there. And that's just how you do it. We're going to just use the same for each of these since this is just an example purpose. You can also, if you want to have a little bit of a shortcut, you can just select the text and you can paste the link right on top of it, and it will go ahead and make it a link, which is really nice. We hit update. And then if we go back to our site and we go to our policies page, we now have links to our policies here. You may choose to put descriptions for them on here. It's entirely up to you how much information you put, but this way then when they click that link, it'll load that PDF for them. This is an example of an edit where it might be easier to have two tabs open with your backend in them, because flipping back and forth to that media page can be a bit of a pain. So I always suggest having a second tab open where you can just keep that on that media page where you can copy and paste your links easily. All right, and then the last page we're going to edit is our About page. So this is, it can have as much or as little information as you want. You may decide you don't even need this page. It's entirely up to you, but it is nice to have a page where people can go to find information about your library, because that is a consistent thing that's on a lot of websites throughout the internet. So that's a behavioral pattern that people have kind of established. So it never really hurts to have an About page, but it could be really simple. It could be really complex. It's entirely up to you. You may decide to put library staff on here, especially if you're a smaller library and you've just got 1 or 2 people. You can put your names here, maybe pictures of what you do. You can also do it if you have 30 staff members. It's entirely up to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to add our addresses, a map, our contact information, and our hours of operation. So first up, we are going to add our addresses. So we're going to choose library address. So when you're going to add blocks, you have multiple options. So before, when we added a header, we chose to do that first. In this case, I'm going to demonstrate if you want to change the type of block you have. So the default is that everything you type is a paragraph block. We are going to change this, it shows you it's a paragraph here, by selecting that text and clicking that paragraph block, and it gives us the option to transform to, and you can make it anything. So don't feel like if you started typing something out and you're like, oh no, this should have been a list, that you have to delete it and start over. You don't. You can just select all of that text, and then you can click the block type here, and you can change it. So we're going to go ahead and change it to a heading. And then below that, we're just going to start typing. I'm just going to type our address because I could do that in my sleep. And actually, if you want to type, anytime you go and you hit enter, it's going to create a whole new paragraph. If you think that's going to look too spaced out, you can hold shift down before you hit enter so that you're holding shift when you hit enter. And what that does is it makes it a much shorter break there. So that way, especially when it comes to addresses, it's a much easier format for people to read. And it's kind of the default format for addresses when you're typing stuff out on the internet. So we can go ahead and put that there. Now what we're going to do after this, I'm going to do that short, I'm going to hit shift and hit enter again, and we are going to put Google Maps link. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Google Maps, which is just maps.google.com. And we're going to find our library here. We're going to click that link. So what it does is it takes you to your library on Google Maps. The easiest way for people to be able to find your library, and honestly, at least in Huntington, our statistics are way higher for people accessing our address and our contact information and our hours of operation through our Google business profile than they are on our website. So I always advocate that you really fill this stuff out for your library. But once you get to here, you just want to hit share, and it's going to give you a link. So you can hit copy link, and we're going to go back to page. We are going to select that Google Maps link text, and we're going to paste that link over the top of it. And that way people can click that and they can get to right to Google Maps. What else we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and embed a Google Maps page into this page as well. Google Maps, a little box. So again, we're going to hit share. So here we were under send a link. We are now going to hit embed a map. We are going to copy that HTML. It says copy to clipboard. We're going to go back to our page. We're going to hit this little plus for add a block, and we're going to choose HTML. So what that lets us do is paste code in here, which is what Google just gave us, and the site knows to look at it as code and not just as text. So we can go ahead and just paste all of that text right in there. We can hit update. We're going to go see what that did to our site. Go to our about page. Ta-da! So you have your address, you have a link that people can click, especially if they're on a phone. This will oftentimes route them right to their Maps application, which makes it a lot easier for them to get to you. But then they also have a map here where they can exactly see where you are. We're also now going to go back and we're going to add our contact information. So below that box, again, we're going to hit this. We're going to choose heading. We're going to choose contact information. And the guidelines, we go back and we look at those again. It says that we are going to want to have a phone number, and we are going to have an email address or other means of electronic contact. So we're going to stick those on here. I'm just again going to use Huntington's information. So we're going to put phone, email, and then you can leave it at that. If you have other email addresses you would like to include, you can put those there as well. But for this case, we are just going to leave it at that. And then the last thing we are going to do is our hours of operation. So one more header. And then I'm just going to put in here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. 5 p.m. And then we'll put Saturday through Sunday closed. Just as an example. We hit update. Now we can go and can look at our page and see that we have our address in there with our map. We have our contact information, and we have our hours of operation. Okay, so our pages have some basic content on them. We can just double check that really quickly. We have our welcome page. We have our calendar page that has events. We have our policy page that has links to some of our policies. And we have our about page that has our address, our contact information, and our hours of operation. So we have a few things left that we're going to adjust on the site. Namely, we're going to adjust up here so that your website doesn't say you're just another WordPress website. And then we're going to adjust the sidebar. You will also have options for your footer. We are not going to address those today because it is just kind of more information. You can decide if you want to put some stuff down there. What it is they're little text boxes at the bottom of your page that are much like these. What we're just going to do is put some of this crucial information in our sidebar because this is a smaller and simpler website. It's just easier to stick that stuff there, but you may decide you want it in your footer. It's entirely up to you. Where you go to make these changes is exactly the same. So if you decide to put it in your sidebar, you decide to put it in your footer, the process is the same. So we're going to go back here. It's going to take us back to our pages, but we're going to look on our sidebar here, and we're going to go under Appearance and Widgets. This is not the most easy to find, so this is one you may want to write down. This is where you go to make any edits to your sidebar or your footer. So we're going to leave all of the footer stuff alone, the left sidebar alone, and we are going to just focus on this right sidebar. So if you look at the site here, we have a search box, we have recent posts, recent comments, archives, categories, and meta. If we go back to the widgets, we have search, recent posts, recent comments, archives, categories, and meta. So you can see that each of these has its own little box. We're going to get rid of a lot of those. Now it's good to keep a search box there because especially in the age of Google, people like to be able to search and find what they're looking for. The default WordPress search works really, really well. So there's really not anything you need to do. You could put a title on it if you want, up to you, or you can just leave it alone. We're actually going to leave this recent posts here because if you decide to use your posts here for your blog as, for example, a news source for your library, it's nice to be able to have that in your sidebar so you can, anytime you have an announcement or new services or anything like that, you can write a post about it and it will show up there on your sidebar on every page on your site so that people can find it easily. What we are going to add is a lot of the same stuff that we added to our About page, just so that whenever anybody is on your site, no matter what page they're on, they have really quick access to the really crucial information, which is going to be your hours of operation, your contact information, your address, as well as your recent news if you're going to have any. So the way we're going to do this is first we're going to do hours of operation. So here on the left, you have your available widgets. These are all the different types of content you can stick in any of these boxes. We are really only going to be using one, and that is the text one. And this is just a basic text box. So we're going to stick it under search. We're going to put as the title, hours of operation. And then below that, we're going to put Monday through Friday. You may decide to abbreviate here since the sidebar is shorter. That way it doesn't carry over onto new lines. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Just type it in here. You do have some basic editing options here as well if you need to use any of those. and you just hit save. Once that grays it out, it means it saved it. And then we're going to do the same for our contact information. We're just going to grab another text one. We're going to drag and drop it. This whole thing is drag and drop. Phone. And again, we will hit save. Something else you can do if you want this email to be clickable is you can select that text and you can hit insert link. And what it's automatically going to do, because WordPress is great, is it detected that that was an email. And so it's going to pop in here, mail to : and then the email address. What that does is tell your computer that this is an email, and when this link is clicked, to use whatever the person's default mail application is, to then start composing an email address to you. It's a really great feature that you can just easily enable, and it's easy for the patrons who want to use it, but if they don't, it's still a perfectly legible email address. Go ahead and hit save. And then we're going to add one more. I'm going to add address. Save. And that's done. So now what we're going to do is check our site. And now you can see that we have that information in our sidebar. So the last thing we're going to tackle is we're going to tackle customizing your header. So you can see first the menu says welcome, calendar, policies, about. You may decide that you don't want these in this order. So what it default does is in the menu, it's just going to list all the pages in the order you made them. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go under Appearance, and right below Widgets, we're going to want to choose Menus. This is where you can edit any menu that you have on your website, and you can have more than one depending on your theme. So right now, it just built kind of a default one for you. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create menu so that we have that enabled on our site. So now what it's going to do, in general, we're going to take out this welcome link because it's going to default by giving you a home link. It's just going to default just to your base web page. We're going to go ahead and remove welcome from here. And then you can rearrange these as you like. So the top one is going to be the one that's on the leftmost on the site here. If we go ahead and we refresh this. Oh, we have to go ahead and save actually. Save and then refresh. Oh, it didn't actually change. Oh, we have to set that in the theme setting too. Right here. We're going to want to hit display location, primary menu. This is crucial. I forget this on every single site I do. I've been doing websites for 10 years and I forget this every time. So you'll just want to make sure that it's showing in the primary menu spot. If you have a theme that gives you more options for menus, like maybe it'll give you a spot to put one in the footer, it lets you choose it there as well. Now when we refresh, yep, see there, now it updated it because this is the primary menu spot. This theme, as we have it set right now, only has one menu spot, so as long as you tick that box, it's going to show here. But you may decide you want to rearrange those. Again, it's drag and drop, so maybe you want to have go home, calendar, policies, about. You rearrange them, you hit save, and it rearranges it for you. So we tackled the menu. The last thing we're going to tackle is just the general customize menu. So under appearance, this is kind of where you're going to edit a lot of different things that impact the look of your site. But this customize one here has a lot of stuff hidden in it. We're not going to tackle everything here, but for now we're just going to click Customize. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a preview of your site, and it's going to give you a ton of different options for editing what your site looks like. We're only going to address a couple today, but when you set your site up, you're going to want to click through each of these and kind of decide what you like and what settings you want to change. So site identity is where we're going to edit this. So we click that, and we're going to change the title. We're going to make it Demo Public Library. And as you can see, it does a live edit, so you can see exactly what you're changing. And you may want to put a little tagline in. You can also decide to hide it if you don't want one. And this is also where you can choose to upload a logo. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to run with the text. You can hit back or you can hit publish. What publish does is as you make changes, if you hit publish, it pushes them live. You can also choose to wait until the end after you've made all your edits to do that. But we're going to go ahead and hit publish. This little arrow here will take you back, and you can kind of just work your way through this. For this specific theme, you have a lot of different options for changing your layout. For example, you can decide that you want, how each of these is a separate box. Maybe you want them to be all in one box and it's all white. Or maybe you like the separate boxes. You can decide how they align. I mean, there's tons of different options. And it never hurts, especially because they give you this live preview. Click through things. See if you like it. See if you don't. If you don't like it, just don't hit publish and change it back to what it was. It's a really nice place to play around and see, what you prefer. So we went ahead and we changed that. We like the way the menu is set up. We like the way the sidebar is set up. Everything is good to go. So at this point, we're just going to leave it as is. If you hadn't hit publish yet, you can go ahead and hit publish there. You can go ahead and hit the X to leave this customize option. And now we can just go back to our site. And you can see all the different changes we've made. So you have, your home page, which actually we're going to make one last setting here because right now it's showing a blog post. But you have your sidebar. We don't have a footer because we chose not to set one up, but you may choose to do that. If you do, the boxes will be down here. We have our menu here. We have our library name, our little tagline. Everything is good to go. The last edit we're going to make is some of our basic site settings. So the default for WordPress is that it's going to set its homepage to always show your most recent posts. That kind of comes from when WordPress was primarily just a blogging platform. But now that a lot of people use it to build actual websites, it's a bit of a dated setting. So we're going to go ahead under settings here, and we are going to go, we're just going to kind of click through these pretty quickly, just so you can see. These are secondary places where you can set this different information. You can set your URL. You can set the email address for the administrator. There's a lot of different options, date settings. These are more settings you're just going to kind of want to click through and decide what you like, what you don't like. The writing settings, I would not mess with this right now. This is really specifically for setting up some advanced blogging settings, and you won't need to worry about that. So this is the one that we're going to modify. Under reading settings, it says your home page displays. It is set to your latest posts. We are going to change that to a static page. And for the home page, we are going to set welcome. That's the only thing we're going to change because we don't have a blog set up yet. We're going to hit Save Changes. And now when we go back to our site, we hit refresh, we now have our home page loaded correctly. If you do decide to set up a blog, you'll just want to make another page for it, and then you're going to want to select that here. And what that will do is it will actually, for most themes, it will erase any content you have on that page, so you just want that page to be blank, but then it's going to populate all your blog posts there. And you have options for comments that you can make some changes here. A lot of this stuff, the default settings work really well, so I just wouldn't mess with them until you're really comfortable with WordPress. And then the rest you don't have to worry about either. And then you're just going to want to make sure when you go back to your pages and you're looking through them So like we look at our welcome page, like our title is green, our description is orange because it's a little bit long, or it says that we've found some duplicated words. You can use these little tooltips as guides to writing good descriptions, but you'll see here, it's like, uh-oh, these aren't some good colors. That's because we didn't set those up. So you'll just want to make sure as you go through your pages, to scroll down to the bottom and make sure you type in just your meta title and your meta description. And you really just want it to be a brief description of what's going to be on that page, because when you go to Google, that's what's going to show up as the title and the description for it. So you'll just want to make sure you always fill those in. We won't do it now, we did it on that one page, but just make sure you do it for each page that you create and you'll be good to go. So now we're going to go back through and we're just going to double check our standards and make sure that we have everything here. So we have that it is discoverable because we're filling in our SEO information. We have our hours of operation. We have our physical address. We have a map. We have our phone number, our email. We have a link to Inspire. We have our policies. We have a calendar. It looks like we missed one, access to the library's online public access catalog. So we're going to want to go back through and we're just going to want to add that really quickly. I am a big fan of adding it just as a menu link item. So if we click here so that we get back to our pages, you can be on your dashboard, your posts, anywhere. But what we really need is a sidebar. We're going to again go appearance and we're going to go menus. Now this is a very handy feature because say you want to put something in your menu that is not a page on your site. Maybe it's a link to your city's webpage, or a link to, maybe you're a branch of a library and you have your own website, but you want to put a link to your parent library, or you're part of a consortium. Anything like that, you may want to link to something in your menu that isn't a page on your site. So what you're going to want to do here under Add Menu Items is we're going to go to Custom Links. And when you click that, it gives you an option for a URL and the link text. So you would type in the link to your catalog. We are just going to link to Google right now because that's the easiest to just do on the fly. But then your link text, you might want to put online catalog, you might want to put our collection, whatever is going to resonate with your patrons. And you hit Add to Menu. And what that does is stick it right down here with everything else. And you can drag that wherever you like in your menu, it doesn't matter. You hit save, you go back to your site, you hit refresh, and there you are. And then when you click it, it takes you wherever you sent the link. So it's really nice and easy. You can stick anything in your menu that you want. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a page on your site. So, a last check of our standards, and it looks like we've addressed everything. So our website, while a bit plain, does have everything it needs to have to be a public library website. You can go through, you can add pictures, maybe you want to change colors. For example, I'll show you what we have done. We use the same theme here in Huntington, but I've spent a lot of time customizing it. So if I go to our webpage, you can see that a very simple theme can look really, really nice. We change the colors, we put a little search box up in the menu, we have little icons next to things. You know, our site menu expands. We have a lot of different things that we changed and set up, and we are using the same theme that we just set up here with this demo site. So it shows that you can get a lot done. You can make things look really, really nice. You can see what the footer would look like too. It would look like this. You can do whatever you like with your site. You know, even if it's something that looks kind of plain like this when you start, the more familiar you get with WordPress, the more you can do, and you can end up with something that looks really nice like this. And that is getting started with a website with WordPress. I hope that this webinar has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be available with the link to this webinar. So feel free to reach out